You so-called North American Indians, you Uncle Tomahawks, what about that?
That's right.
All right? You another one that don't want to accept the white man as your enemy. If anybody should accept the white man as his enemy, should be you so-called North American Indians, man. Come on, man. Look at what they did to you right here in your homeland. Amazing, man. Go on.
It says to turn aside the needy from judgment and to take away the right from the poor of my people.
Right, to take away the right. And like we did a show years ago called the Natural Rights
versus
which natural rights come out of the Bible,
right,
versus God-given rights, I think it was called.
Something like that, versus natural rights, something like that.
Yeah, God-given rights, which comes out of the Bible, versus the so-called privileges. There it is.
Right.
Versus the so-called privileges that you get from the so-called white man. Because you don't get no rights from the enemy and for other purposes. Well, like I said, they have merged the Trading with the Enemy Act with the National Emergency Act to make all or everybody an enemy, right?
And then they use those executive orders that are given to the president to fully enforce all these things.
Yeah, well, like I said, underneath the Emergency Act, which we just read, it tells you what the president can do. All right, over here it says seize property, organize and control the means of production, seize commodities. Property, the property is you. So they can actually take you. That's why we tell you they got these camps for people that resist.
Right.
All right? The concentration camps. And that's pursuant to Revelation, the book of Revelation, the 2nd chapter, the 10th verse. All right? So it's all coming together. And this is what these other guys are not warning you about. You know why? Because number one, they don't believe that's coming. And number two, secretly, they love the so-called white man.
Yeah, and then,
right?
and then the third of all, here it is, they spending all their time and energy coming up against GMS. When really, if they're supposed to have the truth, they're supposed to be out there feeding the people.
Exactly. You guys that talk shit about GMS this and GMS that, why don't you go out there and show us how it's done?
Right.
Since we're incompetent, since we're inept, all right, we can't get the job done according to you.
Right.
Why don't you go out there and show us how it's done? Why don't you package your doctrine, make your videos, and show us how to do it? Or go out there on the street. Right. Preferably go out there on the street and show us how it's done.
Which, you know what?
You know, there's an old saying, there's an old saying, it goes, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem.
Right.
All right? So you motherfuckers that come up against us, right, you're part of the problem, man. See, we're part of the solution. We have the solution. All right? So you that come up against us, you're part of the problem. You're going to be eliminated.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, I said a lot of you don't have the time to go out there because you're trying to cultivate your family, you're trying to get a better job, or you're trying to go to school, you know, so you don't have time to go out there and teach. And besides that, not even that, the Spirit of the Lord is not with you guys.
Exactly. That's the main reason, because you're afraid. You're a bunch of scared rabbits, all right? You're nothing but a bunch of manginas, mama's boys, and you ain't got the cojones, you ain't got the balls to go out there on the street and warn your people of the impending danger, man.
Right.
So what good are you? All right?
You're not even fit for the dunghill, man.
There's no in-between. Even in the book of Luke 3 and 15, the Lord spoke about a lukewarm character. All right? The Lord's, I'm sorry, did I say that? I said Revelation 3 and 15 is what I meant to say.
Right.
The Lord spoke about a lukewarm character.
Right.
That's a guy that's in between. And like I said, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. There is no in-between.
That's right.
All right?
I wish I said, he that gathereth not with me scattereth. He that is not with me is against me.
Yeah, so those guys that are not warning you, because the scripture said, pursuant to Ezekiel 3 and 17, let's get that real quick. We're supposed to warn our people.
That's our job.
That's the act. That's the ultimate act of love. Well, the ultimate act is to die for your people,
right,
but that's one of the ultimate act of love. Let me say it that way: is to warn your people of what's coming, the impending danger. All right. Let's read that.
This is Ezekiel chapter 3, verse 17.
Go on.
Son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore hear the word at my mouth and give them warning from me.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Right. So basically, what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to learn the word, watch. The scripture says watch as well as pray.
And
see what's going out
bringing
there.
Out these documents.
The documents, like the Elder Gabar said, the documents is a part of watching, because we're bringing out to you the documents that they plan on bringing upon you and enslaving you with. you know, and then we're supposed to come out here and teach you.
Right.
So you're not just supposed to go and learn the truth and just keep it to yourself. You're supposed to, what did Yahweh Shai tell Peter? He said, Peter, if you love me, feed my sheep and feed my lambs.
And then Yahweh Shai taught the parable of the 10 talents.
That's right.
You had one guy with 5, one guy with 2. Then you had a nigger that he had only 1 talent, but he hid that talent.
Right.
And what was his reward? The Lord cut him asunder.
That's right.
All right? All right, so that's it on that, right?
Come.
Okay, so let me go back to this real quick. It says, this act, what act is it talking about? The Trading with the Enemy Act. This act originally excluded citizens of the United States. And that was passed back in 1917, but now they have merged it together, all right? This act originally excluded citizens of the United States, but in the act of March 9th, 1933, Section 2, amended this to include any person within the United States or any place subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So that means everybody's an enemy. So how about that? Everybody is an enemy to the so-called United States government. All right?
That's it. If you're a so-called United States citizen,
you're an enemy.
You're an enemy.
All right? It was here that every American citizen literally became an enemy to the United States government under declaration. And that doubly means you so-called Negroes. Right. You West Indians, and you stupid-ass, stupid-minded spicks.
That's right. That's
you so-called Puerto Ricans. All right?
Yep. You Latin tribes, boy.
You Latin tribes. You Dominicans.
Yep.
Dominicans.
Yep. Cubans. All of you.
All right? Let me just... Yeah, because we got to get on you Latin tribes, man.
That's right.
We always get on you niggas, but we got to get on you Latin tribes because you're gone, man.
Yep. Hey, that's why the Most High jacking your ass up down there in Brazil and other parts. And then Most High is he's just warming up.
Just warm. The gloves are about to come off soon.
And then here in Bridgeport, in this area, there's a lot of Latin tribes where that tornado came through.
East Maine.
So there's a lot of Latin tribes.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yep, that's a good point. This also proves. This also provides for the taking over of enemy private property. Oh, so your property is going to be what you trust in. Yep. You think you got the American dream. It says this act. Underneath this act, they can take over your property. How about that? All right. Now we know why we are no longer. Well, let me read again. This also provides for the taking over of enemy private property. Now we know why we are no longer. Now we know why we no longer receive allodial freehold title to our land, and that's allodial title. That's you can look that up. That's in law where you actually own the property. See, this is what the bankers have. They have allodial titles, which I believe it means title of the Lord.
The Lord, yep.
Title of the Lord, right? Now you know why you don't receive it. And you have a certificate of title, by the way. You don't have a allodial title, right? As enemies, our property is no longer ours to have. Did you hear that? As enemies, as you being declared enemies of the so-called United States government, the property that you think you have, you don't have it because you're an enemy, and enemies are not allowed to have property, right?
Yeah, and every time they pass a law to restrict somebody of their so-called rights, that law falls on the citizens of the people. You know, that's why they make like certain events like 9/11 and other events that way they can pass legislation against those so-called terrorism. But then when you look up the word terrorism, they never really define what a terrorist really is.
It's vague. And that's pursuant to Psalm 94, who frameth mischief by law.
Oh, that's right.
Just like the Lord said. All right? Reading on, it says, once an emergency is declared, national emergency, right? There is no common law, and the Constitution is automatically abolished. Well, the Constitution don't provide freedom for you so-called freedom for you anyway. It's all bullshit. All right? We are no longer under law. Yep. Therefore, the law is slacked. Remember, the scriptures say the Lord judgment doth never go forth. The Lord have a controversy with the inhabitants of the land. Okay? Because there's no truth. We are no longer under law. Law has been abolished. We are under a system of war powers. Our stocks, bonds, houses, and land can be seized as Americans are considered enemies of the state. They even made a movie called Enemy of the State.
Right, and then what they want to do is they want anarchy to break out, because that'll give them
Excuse.
to round you up, because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for a major incident to happen throughout the United States, where there be multiple things. Like the Elder Gabar had brought out one time, the Ring of Fire, where they want to create certain things around the world to basically enclose you, and then be able to bring in this new world order.
Yep, and bring you in like cattle and ship you, right? Our stocks, bonds, houses, and land can be seized, as Americans are considered enemies of the state. What we have is not ours under the war powers given to the president, who is the commander-in-chief of the military war machine, right?
And can I read this real quick?
And this is why the scriptures say, trust not in uncertain riches.
Right.
That's 1 Timothy 6, is it? Be not high-minded, 6 and 17, I think it is. Because what you think you have is not yours, right? Is that it? Okay, bring it up.
1 Timothy 6 verse 17. Charge them that are rich in this world, that they be not high-minded, nor trust in uncertain riches.
Right, uncertain riches, because really underneath the National Emergency Act, it tells you right here. Americans are considered enemies of the state. What we have is not ours under the war powers given to the president, who is the commander-in-chief. So the Lord told us not to trust in uncertain riches. All right? And you're really going to find it out. I'm going to let you come in. You're really going to find that out when, like you said, that major crisis which they've been planning happens. That's when you're going to really wake up, man. And then, pursuant to Hosea 5 and 15, the Lord said, in your affliction, you shall seek him early. When you niggas are being afflicted, man.
And a lot of you, when that time comes, it's going to be too late.
It's going to be too
Because the Lord
late.
said, when I called, you refused.
Proverbs, the 1st chapter.
Yep.
Go on.
This is like the Elder Gabar is reading this thing here.
Yep.
This is an executive order. You know, to back up what he was saying. This is executive order number 11921. It says, allows the Federal Emergency Preparedness Agency, which is FEMA, to develop.
Where BEMA at? Where
BEMA at? And you so-called Negroes down there in Louisiana, you should know. FEMA didn't give a damn about you, man.
That's right.
They left you out there hanging out to dry.
Where BEMA at?
Where BEMA at? It says it allows the Federal Emergency Preparedness Agency to develop plans to establish control over the mechanisms of production and distribution of energy sources, wages, salaries, credits, and the flow of money in the U.S., financial institution, and any undefined national emergency. It also provides that when a state of emergency is declared by the president, Congress cannot review the action for 6 months.
And they had the same thing in Rome.
That's right.
You brought that up. Which proves that America is nothing but the extension of the Roman Empire. Exactly what he read. They did that in Rome.
Right.
And it was our people that did it too.
Right. And the law that they did it in Rome under was called the law of the dictator.
Law of the dictator.
And this is what the law of the dictator says. The dictator. In times of military emergency appointed by councils, dictator appointed a master of the horse to lead cavalry, tenure limited to 6 months, or duration of the crisis, whichever was shorter, not subject to veto. Now this is the power that the Caesar had.
That's right. An example of that is when it was Nero Caesar who burnt down Rome.
That's right.
And then he blamed it on who? The Christians, which was our people. And that was the action that was used to persecute many of our people.
Right.
So you know, these devils are students of history. All right.
Hey brother, if I may, just one more executive order. Executive order 12, or should I say elder? Executive order number 12919 is called the national. That's a national emergency executive order. It says, now this goes back to George W. Bush. Should President George W. Bush proclaim and put into effect Executive Order 1219, the President would put the United States under total martial law and military dictatorship. The President need not wait for some emergency to occur. However, he can declare national emergency at any time and freeze everything.
Now you know what national emergency means and where the origin came from. Go on.
Congress and the states are powerless to prevent such an executive dictatorship as long as the president advises Congress in a timely manner.
And going back to the Roman tradition of the law of the dictator. Okay?
And that goes back to Micah, the 2nd chapter.
Bring that out. And while he's getting that, let me just